Welcome back to this week's episode of the Campfire Series podcast. I am your host, Logan Soforenko, continuing this awesome slate of interviews that we have for the month of November. Former Marius in the Les Miserables North American National Tour, Carnegie Mellon graduate, and Jimmy Award winner. Please welcome Joshua Grosso.
Where I went to college, at Carnegie Mellon University, Carnegie, as they say. I went for musical theater. I started acting, like everyone else around like high school-ish. I was always involved in the arts in some way, in some capacity. And then I started acting in high school. That I didn't really know what I was doing. Went to college, tried to learn what to do. Graduated. Would like to think I know what I'm doing now. I want to say, I started Les Miz around 2017. Yeah, it was like about a year later. I went on Les Miz, and we basically did that show for almost 3 years. I was on it for like 2.5 years. Just touring the country. I played the role of Marius, and up till now, and especially then, it was like the biggest thing that I had gotten. I had done little regional stuff here and there, but that was like my first major big gig. And then we were, and then we were touring when we got all of a sudden, this thing started spreading. I don't even remember. Back in March, so I don't even remember where we were, to be honest. I don't even remember, actually. I was just like, because every week is kind of like, they would say the same thing. They were like, where were you just last week? When you would go into like Uber or a restaurant, they're like, what are you doing in town? And we're like, oh, we're here for work. We just came in from, where were we? And everybody's like, I don't know. I think we were in. So you start referencing those things like, oh yeah, it was that place. Remember, it was that place with the little so and so. So I can't remember, but yeah, it's just been after that. Yeah, it's been here at home, with family. So it's been pretty nice.
How do you say you make the claim of not in being in high school, not knowing what exactly you were doing, and then get to go to Carnegie Mellon? How did the audition process work for Carnegie Mellon? How did you get accepted there? And also, what was your journey like maybe through high school?
So I mean, Carnegie was awesome. I remember that the audition was great, and I do not say this proudly at all, that in terms of like, I consider myself one of the people that like really had no idea what they were doing, because I did that thing that you go on Google and you search for like top 10 or top, whatever best musical theater programs in the country. And you see the usual list of like, you see CMU, you see NYU, you see Michigan, you see, what Juilliard, all these schools over there. So I was like, okay, CCM, all that. And so I was like, all right, so I guess I'll just audition. Be like, well, I'm just gonna audition for whatever. And I really didn't know about CMU until there was a friend of mine from the theater program at my high school that was just like, her dream was to go to Carnegie Mellon. She really wanted to go, and she was like, yeah, it's a great program. So I was like, okay, well then I'll apply there. And I went there. Carnegie doesn't have anything such as unifieds, but they are in the same, like during the same week they're there as unifieds. So I went there during my time with unifieds and everything, and then all of a sudden went to the audition, and they asked me for all of my monologues. I was the last one there. Fell asleep. I fell asleep waiting for my audition. So they were like clearing out the entire thing, and somebody woke me up and said, "Are you here for our audition?" I was like, "Yeah, I am," because I was waiting for so long. So my voice teacher went to go sing for him. I sang Light in the Piazza. I sang Fabrizio's song, and that was like a nightmare for the pianist, for the accompanist to do. He was just like, don't ever put the accompanist to do that. And I was like, I know, I'm sorry. And then I had to do my monologue in Spanish. I was learning like Italian at the time, so then I had to do it in Italian. Then they told me to do my like Moliere piece as a comedian. Then I had to like as if it was like a comedy sketch. I've heard stories that some people were literally like, were told like, okay, like, balk like a chicken during the entire monologue. So they would have to do it. All I remember really was that it was just like a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun and a lot of creative freedom during the audition. And the biggest thing that I got from there was that they were just looking for people, obviously, talent, and obviously some sort of grasp or knowledge of or passion about what you were doing, but people that were just willing to say like yes, people like get a direction and you just go full forward, like full 100% commitment to whatever they were asking to do. And then I was very fortunate enough to get in, to go there. We're a pretty small class, so I was, and my time there was awesome. I mean, I learned a lot. So yeah.
You also had a pretty cool thing happen to you in high school, correct? With a little
Yeah,
called the Jimmy Awards.
the Jimmys.
What
Yeah,
was
the Jimmys.
what was that all about? I know the Jimmys are a
Yeah.
very, they're the Tonys of high school theater. So what was that? Because I know the process for the Jimmys are, for our viewers that don't know, you win your best actor and actress from your regional program typically, and then they send you to the one in New York. And I don't really know how you did. I feel like I should know this, but what was your journey like for that week in New York City? Because I actually haven't had anybody from the Jimmys on my show yet.
Yeah, well, it was a very again, it was a very strange, fortunate, kind of blessed year, like for me, just because I was aware of the Jimmys. Again, you'll be able to tell within however long we spend together during this time that I'm on most things about life, I'm pretty clueless. I only know about like the things that I do. So again, I knew of the Jimmys. I knew that a lot of the seniors were nominated in my school. And then I went up. I was doing Phantom of the Opera, but I was playing the part of Raoul. And I was nominated, and I was like, "Oh, that's awesome! That's cool." And I actually would work. So I don't know if you're aware of I think like thespians, basically it's what it's called. It was like State Thespians was this kind of like event where all these schools, like local schools, meet up, and they hold like a competition, and then they go best monologue, scenes, shows, etc., etc. And if they win around, like locally or like regionally or whatever, locally, then you go and compete statewide, and that would be in Tampa. So my school was one of the people that was like fortunate enough to go. We went with our show, with our monologues or whatever. And I went that year to work the State Thespians. I was like, basically helping the judges, running back and forth. So during the ceremony is when they announced the winner was, and I was backstage working. Like I wasn't watching, I wasn't whatever. And I found out that this other kid won. I was like, oh, that's great. Awesome. It was just cool to be considered, and life went on. And about a week, I want to say later, maybe a little longer, but about a week later, I get called into the office, and they're just like, hey, basically, long story short, he won't be able to make it, and you're the runner up. So they're wondering if you're able to go instead, to go up to New York and represent basically Florida, you and another girl. And I was like, I mean, sure. Yeah, no problem. So I already went with kind of like this thing where I was just like, I got nothing to lose. Technically I've already lost. So I'm just going to go up basically just to see what this is. And yeah, I went, and I mean, it was awesome. You get to see, well, I'll finish this first. You get to see basically people from the high school kids from all over the country who, are just as talented as you are, if not better. And you get to learn from like the professionals of Broadway. Christian Borle was there, and my coach for the week was Liz Calloway. So I worked with on Liz's class and everything, and we it was awesome. But then the weird thing was also is that year in particular, the PBS was filming a documentary about the Jimmy Awards. So I was roommates with one of the guys that they were following, and they had camera crews all over the place, just like filming us, and I was like, whatever, whatever. And it's about a week of just like intensive workshops as well as preparing for the final, like show. And the way that they did it then, I don't know about now because now it's become like such a big known thing. But the way that they did it then was that Sunday night, I want to say Sunday night, Saturday night, maybe, we would all the auditions or all the rehearsals would be in the NYU campus. And then we would do our final like run through of the show, with like our medleys, and then everybody, all 50 kids or whatever would do their solos, everybody, for the judges, right? So we would do it for Telsey, we would do it for whoever the NYU director, anybody, and anyone who was judging, we would do it then, right? And then from there, they would kind of pick, and I only know this because of watching the documentary afterwards. I didn't know that's how it worked. But basically, we would all do that, and then from there, they kind of would narrow it down to see like who they would be interested in. So then they would be able to pick on Monday, right? To actually pick who got to who were the finalists basically to sing on Monday. So you would find out, you would find out basically because you already did your solo the night before, and then you would do your medley on the actual performance day on that Monday in the Minskoff Theater. Because I mean, if you think about it, it's kind of unfair to judge it, like to pick who gets to sing their solo, and it just solely based off of a medley. And then also it's pretty impossible to have every single kid sing their solo during the show, like a 5-hour show. It would almost be just as long as Les Mis. So it was like, maybe not. So yeah, that's how they did it. Anyway, long story short, they did the documentary. Everybody was surprised as well as I was that I was fortunate. I was like chosen, and then I was lucky enough to win. And I was like, okay, this is going straight for college. This was before I got into Carnegie. I had already committed to Carnegie. So then again, I wasn't necessarily, I wanted to do my best, absolutely 100%. It was my first time on a Broadway stage. But that being said, like, it was pretty, not low stakes, but I want to say, I was just going in there to learn, what can you do? So it was a fun time. It was a hard time, lots of ramen in those dormitories.
Isn't
And great
that the
people,
college life? Isn't that the college life, the
yeah,
campus life,
the
ramen or a cup of
college
noodle?
life. Exactly. So, I mean, like, what can you do, Um, yeah. It was a wild experience. It was a crazy experience. And now I can only imagine. I mean, like, now the competition is like, you have people from there that get like jobs now and all that. So it's crazy. It's awesome. It's a great opportunity.
How did the casting process go for Les Miz? Because I remember you're aware that I talked to Jillian, and she said that
Yeah, Jill.
you were cast before her.
I
So
was.
what was casting like for Les Mis?
It was not necessarily as crazy for me, at least, as it was for many other people. I just came in basically kind of, I got the appointment from my agents. I went in. I also enjoyed that audition, though, specifically because it wasn't something that like many other auditions that I had done before, where it was like, come in, sing your song. Okay, thanks so much. Maybe the whole thing lasts about 5 minutes. My audition lasted maybe around 15 minutes, which is kind of pretty unheard of. it's not very common, I would say, because they're always, just trying to see the next person. So I had to do basically all of Marius's stuff. I had to do like the Red and Black song in the cafe, the ABC Cafe. I had to do obviously Empty Chairs, and then I had to sing a couple of just like ensemble stuff as well. I had to have that prepared at least. Um, I think I had to have a Heart Full of Love, like the beginning of a Heart Full of Love, maybe. So anyway, yeah, we worked on that, and we worked on Empty Chairs for a little bit. And I got there and I was crying. They're like, "Okay, thanks so much." And I was like, "All right." And I just remember going like, that was a fun audition. It was just fun because at that point it had been almost a year or so, and I was like, "Hey, I got to use my degree for like more than 5 minutes. That's pretty awesome. That's pretty cool." So I saw that as a win. But then, yeah, I get called back. I want to say a few weeks later, you know, um, and I go in, and then I'm going in with I see like our director and the resident director, and I think I worked with them one more time. I think I went in a total of 3 times. I worked with them one more time. We do all that stuff. He works out with me. He tells me how like the stage is all laid out, which is how it all ended up. And again, we work, and I'm like, okay, great. I leave again. And then this is the final callback, and then this time there was a camera in there, and I had an Eponine and a Cosette with me. We all 3 of us were in there, and this was to go ahead and film for Cameron. So we all had to do our scenes respectively. Like, I would do all my stuff, and they would be off camera, and then they would do all their stuff, and I would be off camera. So it would be et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And it's just basically to see our chemistry and all that stuff. And yeah, it got sent into Cameron, and then Cameron was the one, to handpick every single cast member to go like, yeah, 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 yeah. And that's it. It was really just, I remember I was just, yeah, I just got a phone call, and I was like, maybe eating Chipotle or something, and I was like, oh wow, okay, cool. So I did that, and they were like, yeah, you start in a few months, and I just went, okay, I start in a few months, and it didn't really dawn on me until the day before, or like the that day of that. It's like you're going in for a professional production of Les Miserables that was just on Broadway, and you're going to be basically like the North American tour. So it was a lot of fun. It was awesome. You expect in those type of huge projects that have been working for 25 years for them to already have like a formula laid out. And it wasn't, I mean, you have to hit certain things, and you have to hit certain, spots that are iconic. But other than that, the creative freedom in the audition and in the rehearsal room was really it was a welcome surprise. It was really awesome. It was really unexpected, and that show really became like ours, if that makes any sense. Which I'm convinced that the creatives didn't have to do, because they're just like, this show has been a hit for 25 years. We can just keep doing the same thing that we've always done because it's just that good. But the fact that they gave us freedom to really make that show our own interpretation of that story was it was a really awesome gesture by them.
Well, congratulations on a spectacular run. I'm sure you probably weren't ready to hear that just yet because of obviously.
Oh, it was crazy. It was crazy. Yeah.
But what are some stories from your run? You were on the tour for a long time. That's a good amount of time to be on tour.
Yeah.
Being on Broadway, you're in one theater, but on national tour, you're constantly on the go. So what are some stories you can lay on us?
Yeah, it was a lot of 1-weekers. It was a lot of 1-weekers. It's just like I had a few castmates where they were just like, yeah, like I just came from, like Jill, she came from Wiccan or something. She was just like, yeah, I was like in a city for about a month, so at least I had time to like settle down. And my first tour was basically going from like city to city every single week. Stories, I mean, what can I say? I have so many. I have so many. I broke my foot in the middle of the production, so I had to leave the tour for about 3 months. It was during the barricade.
When was that, like, chronologically? Because, well, I didn't
Oh,
see you when I saw your understudy when you came to
yeah.
LA. So
Oh, yes, yes. Well, I was in LA about towards I want to say towards the last week of LA. I was I think I got sick. I got sick towards the last week of LA, and then I think I missed like, a weekend of shows or such. Um so that was then, but I fractured my foot I want the first year in tour, like I want to say like the like March of the first year while I was on tour. Um, and I was out of it for about 3 months. Super awesome. I was expecting for them to be like, "Well, it's been a great time," you know? And the fact that they were just like, "Heal up, and then, you're more than welcome to come back, and we'll make your costumes a little bigger as well because, well," and I was like, "Thank you. Thank you so, so much." Um, so yeah, that was a crazy time. Yeah, yeah, I fractured my right foot and everything, and, um, I was getting ready to do as well. Like, they were just awesome. Yeah, I mean, I was getting ready to do In the Heights at the Kennedy Center. It was the day before our first rehearsal, and I was doing the show of Les Miz, so I was just gonna take like a quick 2 week leave and then come back. But life has its own plans, and like I'm doing the show, and the next day I'm supposed to be on a plane, go to New York to go ahead and do this rehearsal for In the Heights. And that day, I just kind of like actually, it was a Saturday. It was a Saturday night. That Saturday night, I just fractured my foot, and then Sunday, I'm basically calling people up in New York, going, "I am so sorry. Uh, what can I tell you? Like, I I can't make it. Like, I can't go. I have a fractured foot. It's like impossible for me to do it." And then in the show, in like Les Mis, my first commitment, I was just like, "I have a fractured foot. I can't do it." Um, that was one story. I once came down for the wedding sequence where we're all getting married, and I'm like walking down the aisle. Um, my flap was undone, my zipper was down basically. So like, that was totally right there, spotlight just right on me, and my pants were just down, just down. So there was that experience. What else? I don't know. Oh man, the amount of I mean, what other stories I had? Yeah, I almost fell off the barricade. I tripped and almost like fell flat on my face. I've had plenty of like voice cracks during the show. Anything and everything you're probably thinking um happened at one point or another. Uh the key, the art is to try to mask it to make it look like you don't see it. You don't know what happened. That was all supposed to happen. Um yeah, but that's those are the ones those two are the ones that come to mind as of right now, at least. So yeah.
how did you stay like, when you were healthy, you know what I mean? Like, what
Yeah.
were some ways that you took care of your health, obviously traveling on the road, but also,
Yeah.
not just physical health, but mental health, doing it, 8 times a week. I heard sometimes you did more than 8 times a week, like what were
Yeah.
some things you did to stay healthy?
The number one thing is sleep, I feel like. A lot of people say that, but it really, like, because it's just important. It's just sleep. But for the first few months of the show, I was green. I was very much green. So I didn't get to see. I mean, we were in Chicago, for about 3 weeks, which was the longest time up to that point that we had been in a city. I didn't sightsee Chicago. I probably saw Chicago for about 2 days. The rest of the time, I was so terrified about going out. It was also like in the dead of winter. So I was so terrified of going out, and so terrified of getting sick, and so terrified of just like not being able to do the show that I got really well acquainted with my hotel room. and like that's about it. Like I was indoors basically I didn't do any touristy things within the first few months, and that was just my process. Just because I had to learn how to do a show 8 times a week, especially a show where you're singing basically from 7:30 to 10 o'clock or 10:30. I mean, like it's just like, how do you juggle that? So my entire day was kind of catered to get ready for those 3 hours, or sometimes, on the weekends, those 6 hours of work that I had to do for those double shows. So I like lots of teas, lots of rest, plenty of exercise, vitamins, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And hydration, like water, like crazy. But I feel like everybody does it. Everybody knows what to do. It's kind of like not necessarily a secret of like, you'll have those actors that tell you, I'm telling you right now, like this, you know, earth grown plant of the Sahara that I had it imported from the coconut tree of the bongos or whatever is heavenly. And you put like a little bit of this cream on your throat and that's it. It's amazing. And I think a bit of it is like a placebo effect where you just go like, I have my superpower, let's go. And then like, you're just mind over matter type of thing. And another thing is that, yeah, there are like tips and tricks on how to stay healthy. But the obvious things that comes to mind to everybody, if you go, hey, what do you do if you stay healthy? You're just like, well, I feel like you have to drink a lot of water. I feel like you have to have a lot of vitamin C. I feel like you have to have sleep a lot, get a good rest. It's exactly the same thing, don't, maybe don't go out partying like after you've done a like a 2-show day on a Saturday where you have to wake up again and do it again even earlier on a Sunday. Like, maybe don't do that, just go home and go to sleep. But that being said, like, you're not a robot. So you have to, it's just finding the balance of all of that. And I had an easier time compared to like Javert, like Nick Cartel, who literally like being Jean Valjean is described as to like living like a monk for a year, because who wants to be hitting like a high C at 1 o'clock in the afternoon? Nobody wants to do that. Like, no one. But when you're the lead, that's what you got to do. So you have to be ready. It's a being part of projects like that is really awesome because you get to know your voice really well. You get to go, yeah, she's on it today, or like, no, she's not feeling it today, or I can give a little bit more here, maybe give a little bit less here. In terms of technicality, when it comes to like intention, or when it comes to like not necessarily emotions, but when it comes to the actual investment of yourself in the project, that's always at 100. But in terms of technicalities, in terms of maybe I won't hit this note as hard as I usually do to save myself a little bit further on for those other 30 bars that are coming up that I know I'm going to need a little bit extra today, that you can kind of, you can kind of barter with, you can bargain with that. But in terms of being like absolutely present, as they say, that always helps to be 100%, because yeah, you got no excuse to be. Our job is not the hardest job in the world at the end of the day. I keep remembering that. Like, even if I'm feeling the lowest of the low, I'm putting on a costume and pretending for about 3 hours. So it's not that terrible.
I think it's a good way of good way of putting it. But I wish we had a bunch more time. But real quickly before we wrap up,
man.
You just gave a great advice. But what are some overall thoughts? Especially now, because for instance, I'm in a Zoom production of King Lear. Like this is the future of theater right now. So what's some advice you can give to young performers in this new style of theater?
Yeah. listen, it's kind of an exciting thing because it's taken everybody outside of their comfort zone, right? And theater literally anywhere and everywhere that where there's an audience. I mean, that's my belief. Anybody that's deciding to put up, the street performer, that's his home. That's his home. That's his theater. That's his lifestyle. That's his passion. Um, if anybody decides to stop by and watch, that's wonderful. That's a blessing. Um, but yeah, so in this aspect, I mean, the comforting thing is that there is no rule book to how you're supposed to do this. So just go ahead and do it. That goes for theater during COVID or theater in general. Um, my advice 5 years ago was not the same advice as it is today, and my advice 5 years from now won't be the same exact advice as I'm giving you today, because I've either learned something, I've you know just have had a change of view about something else. And to me, I'm the type of person where knowing that there's not having an equation is frustrating, but then I started to take comfort in the fact that there was no right way to do it, because I said, okay, well, there's no right way to do it. So, I mean, it's, I have to go figure that out for myself. I have, whatever that means, and I feel like I get, when people are like, that whole journey is of self-discovery and finding your truth. I don't know what that means. And like, I feel like that's an easier way to, it's just like a cop out. For me, it's a cop out of a way because I haven't discovered what that is, what that means to me. So me telling a whole group of young people that are not too far behind me to go, just go after your inner truth. It's giving such a huge objective up to somebody. It's just being like, just do what you were meant to do, or like, just go and be happy. You're like, how do you do that? I have no idea how to start. And that to me is the equivalent of that, of like finding your inner truth. I'm like, well, I haven't found that yet. I don't really know what that is yet. But it just doesn't mean that every day you're not trying to get closer to it, whether that is from performing, from learning a monologue to watching a movie. Some people are just on different paths and different journeys. Like that's 100% what it is and what it's like. But the thing that I constantly tell myself is, success is very subjective. I could be looked at as very successful from a point of view. You're like, oh, you did this and you done that, you did this, you must be living the life. And then it's like, as I tell my friends, and then I have a friend who is on a CW show, and success to me is that. And then for them, being in movies and being in this is that sort of success. So it's a very subjective thing. Grass is always greener syndrome, basically. So it's focusing on the why of why you do things, is really, I think, what's most important. Just why do you want to get into this? I'm not a believer of like, if you can think of anything else to do it. Like just give up on acting because it's torturous. It's not. It's extremely frustrating. But when you take a step back and you see, I am given the opportunity at any point in time to go ahead and play, to go ahead and fill the void or fill the shoes of some character right now. Like you're doing a production of King Lear right now and it's on Zoom or something. Like, yo, you have a space. You have a space now that you can control. Like you don't have to go into some space to learn, some set to go ahead and get comfortable in and find out, the temperatures of where you'd like to sit in and how, like, you're already at home. So then you have the opportunity to go ahead and create that environment around you and already be comfortable in that, and maybe kind of, come up with different ways to portray whatever you're trying to say. Those are opportunities. Opportunities are scary, opportunities are terrifying, but they're there, and they're only fruitful when you decide to take them, and you decide to like grab on them hard. But if you're not there at that moment, if you're timid about it, like, it's not the end of the world. There are actors who are literally getting Oscars at the age of 80 who were like, working at a gas station, and they went, I just decided to act today. So like literally our meme is one that goes, when they say it's never too late to start, it's actually 100, it's only late when you're dead. Like that's about it. Because now you'll get the most out of it the sooner you start. You'll flourish a little bit more and you'll learn more about yourself. You'll get that opportunity. But that's about it. So my advice is just enjoy it. Just enjoy it. Make sure you enjoy it and you love it, because that's really the only worthwhile thing.
Well, I don't think it could have been said any better than that. Just enjoy it and find the why. But I really appreciate you taking some time out of your day and coming on my show. By the way, I just had an interview I did a day ago, an upcoming episode. Christian Thompson says hi.
Christian,
and he says to call him.
Okay. Oh, okay. Well, he called me out on the public airwaves, so I'm gonna have to go ahead and do that. I'm gonna have to do that. That's awesome. That's wonderful. Thanks.
Well, it was
a messenger.
Hey, when you have a medium, you have to use it sometimes,
Absolutely. There you go. That's even better advice right there. So why not?
Well, I really appreciate you coming on. Not everyone, you didn't have to say yes, but you did, and I really appreciate it.
Oh man, no worries. Thank you for reaching out to me, Logan. Man, I appreciate it. I hope you stay safe. Have a good day and break legs with the King Lear production. Have fun. It'll be awesome.
I appreciate that, and best of luck. I'd say finding the next project, but on top of COVID stuff right now, but also I guess that message still is applicable.
Yeah. Absolutely. No worries. Taking it a day at a time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, it was nice meeting you.
All right, man. Take care. I'll see you.